Have you ever thought to yourself, man, Dave sends us all these emails with all of this technology. Where do I even start? There's so much. I don't know. I could just get overwhelmed. What should I do? Well, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. Um, some of the questions that I've been asked are here on the side. Where do I start? There's so much I can choose from. Uh, I don't have any time for this. And my biggest question is always, is the amount of time I'm putting into it worth the amount of learning I'm getting out? And then the other question I get all of the time is, what do I do when it doesn't work? How do I recover from that? What if I set up technology and it doesn't work? Paper has never failed me. Well, let me give you some ideas. So, one thing that we want to try and do is don't try and do everything at once. Try and slow down. Try and get a little bit implemented at a time. And as you do that, you'll find that you can change a lot in the course of one school year. So, in my planner, this is what I came up with, is that each month I would just try to integrate something to change the way that I was teaching. Not, I'm going to integrate a new piece of technology, because that's not where you start. The way you want to start is, what is your goal? What do you want to accomplish? Then, once you find out what you want to accomplish, you need to find out, what tool can I use to accomplish that goal. So, I created kind of a timeline of once a month I would try to incorporate another way to use technology. So in August, I would use technology to engage my students. And so many teachers I've seen do a getting to know you activity. They do a getting to know you paper, and students fill these out. I have my own children who come home and they're supposed to fill out this checklist. Well, one way you could do that is you could uh, use a Google form. And on a Google form, you could say, oh, here's a funny video about some kid spinning on his head and balancing things on his feet. What's a talent you would like to develop this year? What do you want to get better at? And integrate more things than you can with just a piece of paper. Then, as students start to feel comfortable using these things, then we organize my own self. How am I going to set up my Canvas, or how am I going to organize my files in my Google Drive, or how am I going to do these things? But how are you going to organize your tools so that you don't have your file cabinet that um, is there getting filled up? In October, use tech to collect papers. And so there's a few different ways you can do this. In Canvas, you can have them take a picture of their paper and send it in, or now you can put a PDF in, and they can annotate on it, which means to write on the PDF. But also, we have lots of other tools that you can use. So if you did a Nearpod and then you had them answer questions in there, so you teach a little bit, you give a little or question and answer, and then teach some more, and then that's how you would collect papers. Um, Use technology to let your students explore ideas, and so maybe on your Canvas page you put up, oh, here's 3 websites you can go to explore this. Choose one of them, or however you want to do that. But with that, one of the things that a lot of teachers do really well at the beginning of the year is set up their classroom, of how to enter the classroom, how to turn in papers, how to ask to use the bathroom, how to communicate with the teacher if you have a question. If your pencil doesn't work, what do you do? We do a great job of doing that, but what we do when it comes to technology is we forget, and we just hand them a Chromebook and we say, okay, now I want you to explore. We'll give them that parameter, give them your expectations, give them what they're supposed to do within that. In December, use technology to personalize learning. So give them 4 options and say, you can click here and here, and then you need to do these things. You need to do 2 of the 4. You need to do one of the whatever, and let them personalize their learning. Let them choose different things. In January, now that you've got all of this organization done, record yourself teaching. Put it on a Canvas page and say, okay, we're going to do a 15-minute video. In this 15-minute video, you can rewind it. You can go back to where you want to do. You can pause it. But this is going to be the learning. And then you can go from there. And the nice thing is that when you do that, now you free yourself up to go around the classroom. And February, use technology to let students show different ways of learning. So we've learned all of this stuff. Are you going to present what you've learned in a Google slide? Are you going to use a Quizlet? Are you going to use a web page? What are you going to do to show what you've learned? And if we're talking about DOK learning levels, now we're in a DOK 3 and a DOK 4 level so that they can show what they've learned. And in March, take that data that you've gathered all year through using the tools, using the quizzes. Let's plan our teaching around this data. So now that you have it, how are you going to use the data that you've collected? And baby step it along the way. In April and May, what's worked, what hasn't worked. Now I know some people say, and they say this to me all the time, what do I do if it didn't work? My kids will, yada, whatever, hey, they probably didn't even remember what they learned yesterday, right? Because they come in and say, oh, I don't remember that from yesterday. So what's to say they're going to remember the way you taught it yesterday or the mistakes you made? And we're supposed to have a growth mindset. So as we work through this, let's build that growth mindset of saying, oh, it didn't work. What am I going to learn from it? And have that conversation with the students. And then in June, obviously, we would attend our district tech conference and learn new things that we can implement, tools that we can say, oh, I want to collect papers. What are some tools I can use to collect papers? And expand our knowledge of tools that we can use to meet our objectives. And then in July, obviously, relax. Just relax. The other thing that we need to do is when we're trying technology, I know sometimes it can be tricky and there's lots of different things and we want to try this and this and this. Just slow down, take a breath, and try something easy. So if you think Nearpod is too hard, maybe you could start with, hey, I'm going to use Google Slides. And then Google Slides has an add-on for Nearpod. And so once you feel comfortable with Google Slides, use the add-on for one little thing. I don't need to overwhelm with all of this stuff because as teachers get overwhelmed, students get overwhelmed, and then teaching and learning doesn't happen as well. So plan out, just change a little bit. Think about where you were last year, and if you went through these steps this year, how much further you would be along than you were at the beginning of the year. And that's what we want, is we want to be able to grow. We want to be able to become better. We want to be able to incorporate things that'll engage the students, that'll help the students learn differently, that'll help them learn in the way that their mind is set up from having technology around all the time.